And Daniel Barnes, D. Barnes, Young Barnes, Barnesy, all of us are here. Just doing a quick recap of this week, what I learned. I've got 3 sermons, 4 different classes, and 2 teachings in the morning, as well as there's a prayer walk, but not much to go over there. So, first sermon was the Sunday night sermon, which was I'm recording this on Friday, so last Sunday. We're talking about habits. One of the main things that I got out of that was habits are very hard to break, but they can be replaced. And we were talking about what does it take to break a habit. There were 5 major points. You need hope that God cares for you. You need an assessment. What are the negative habits that I'm currently doing? 3, you need to build up willpower, just like a muscle. If you don't work out for 4 weeks and then you go back the next day, you're going to be really sore. So you have to build up that willpower. And then interdependence, having relationships, people that are holding you accountable. And 5, finding your true purpose. What is that habit that you can switch to instead of whatever that negative habit is? And there's kind of 3 stages. There's the cue, the reward, and then the routine. So figuring out what the cue is, what the reward is, and how you can switch that to be something that's God-honoring. D-Time, Tuesday morning, we did a pro-apt on, and don't worry about what that is if you don't know what it is. On Philippians 3, 7 through 11, the main thing I got out of that verse was really to find myself in Christ as opposed to in the world and anything else. I had a New Testament class taught by Dina Davidson. The major thing that some things that I didn't know was we went over the time that Jesus was born into. So there were 4 different factions. There's the Pharisees, Sadducees, the Zealots, and then something I had never heard of before, which was called Essenes. So the Pharisees were like the people that you wanted your kids to grow up to be like. They really cared and honored God for the most part. The Sadducees, they were actually, because at the time when Jesus was born, there was Roman rule. The Sadducees were saying, okay, we're going to compromise. We're going to be in their good graces, so that way we can rule over our people. So they were not respected because they were looked at as traitors who went over to the Roman side. And then there are the Zealots who are saying, overthrow them. So obviously the Zealots hate the Sadducees because Sadducees are siding with the Romans. And then there are the Essenes, which I had never heard of, and they're saying we cannot be in this place and honor God. So their response was to just withdraw, whereas the Zealots were to resist, and then the Sadducees, they were to compromise, and the Pharisees, what did I write? They honored God. That's what it was. And then there were also, at this time, there were the Hellenist Jews, and those are the Greek-based who came from Greek, the Gentile, and there are Palestinian Jews, and those are the Jewish by race-based. I had our first songwriting class. That was on Wednesday, I believe, and so just went over what the expectations of that. Started writing a song with Josh Gilbert, so that was cool. We went to Folsom Lake, and that was super cool. Started an Ableton class, which is a program that all the drummers use, and so kind of everyone's getting trained, so I'm going to be able to be better informed about that. Really looking forward to that class. Chris Fox is super funny, so I'm excited for that. Then we had Folsom High School Wednesday night, and so that was super cool. Got to play cajon, had a little a tambourine in my left foot and a shaker. That was super fun. Haven't gotten to do that super often, play that sort of thing, and I just really loved. I took notes on James Rogers. I don't know if you can see this, but I just love the way my notes look from his. So kind of the main things, though, are 2 whole things that I really loved was do I focus on being holy? Like my actions and my words. That was something. And then he said something that I had never known is during the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln, he looked for ways to pardon people. I thought that was such an interesting, be looking for the opportunity to forgive people in the way that they've wronged you. And, also he talked about how when he accepted Christ, that James died. So for me, when I accepted Christ, Daniel died, and now Jesus lives through me. And so then there was D-Time. again with Kurt on Thursday, so yesterday morning, and so he was really talking about how incredibly important the first 15 minutes of the day is, and how building a habit of really connecting with God first, of finding a place and a time to connect with God, finding your purpose through that time, through the Bible reading, through prayer, and through doing that consistently over a long period of time, and then making a plan so that way what you read actually made a difference. Of going, so there's this thing, ABC, ask God for help, be in the Bible, and calendar activities, something along the lines of that. So basically, ask God, connect with God, pray, be in the Bible, and then what are you going to do because of what you read from the Bible, and then how is your day different because of that encounter with God? And you can make a list, and now you can prioritize based on how you've read, if anything's changed, and then deciding your priorities, which is the extra one, and then encouraging someone, just writing a note, doing something along the lines of that. We had an Old Testament class as well. This is also on Thursday. And some things that I didn't know is Israel actually stands at the crossroads of the world. It's in between what was Egypt. So if we're on a map, Israel's here, Egypt is down and to the left, and then, I don't remember what it is now, but Syria or not Syria, I'm so sorry, Babylon and Persia are up above Israel. So those two countries love to trade with each other because they're massive countries during Bible times, and both the major roads go right through Israel. Old Testament, there were 5 truths that were talked about that I thought were really good and worth sharing. First one is there's a supreme God. 2 is he has and is communicating with us. Number 3 is he has solved our number 1 problem, which is alienation from ourselves, from God, and from others. Number 4 is he has support systems for us. And number 5 is there's an afterlife and an end to history. And we can't discover God on our own, and everyone needs an accurate view of God. Now, the very last one that I have for you this week is Bayside College, which was last night. So that was Blake Vandermark who did that. And some really cool things that I didn't know. It was about the prodigal son, and the basic overall view was basically that just God that loves us. But the way that he showed that and the historical facts about the prodigal son was things that I had literally never thought of, and I've heard that story so many times over my life. He talked about how the robe, when the son returned, how the father looked with love and compassion on him, even while he was a far way off. And the reason why he ran was because when a son left in that sort of a disrespectful way, the elders would be there when the son came back and break a jar, boom, break it on the floor, and then in the same way pick up that piece of glass and say, in the same way that this is irreparably broken, so is our relationship with you. And so the reason the father ran was to make sure he was there before those guys got there. And by hiking up his robes to run, he was exposing his legs, which was a big no-no at that time. And by showing affection, by throwing his arms around him and kissing him multiple times, he was forfeiting any sort of business potential he could have had in that town. So the robe was saying, you're valued. He put a ring on his finger saying, I love you and give you authority in my name. And 3, he declared relationship and a son because of the sandals, because only servants and other people like that went around barefoot. And the biggest lie, this is kind of something that he ended with and I want to end with, was the biggest lie isn't that God can't forgive us, but that God doesn't love us. It's the biggest tool that the enemy uses, is to think that something that we've done is too big for him to come back to us. So, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see y'all next week.